If you own a Nintendo Switch or a Switch 2 and want a great single-player game to sink your teeth into, this list has everything you need. Starting at number 1, Tears of the Kingdom is easily one of the best open-world games you can play on Nintendo hardware right now. Building on everything Breath of the Wild did and then some, this one gives you a massive Hyrule to explore, with new mechanics like Ultra Hand and Ascend that completely change how you interact with the world. It is the kind of game you can dump 80 hours into without realizing it. Coming in at number 2, Breath of the Wild is the game that redefined open-world adventure for an entire generation of players. If you never touched it on Switch 1 or just picked up a Switch 2, there has never been a better time to jump in. The freedom to go anywhere, climb anything, and tackle challenges in your own order still feels genuinely fresh, even today in 2026. Number 3 on the list is Hollow Knight Silksong, and if you have been waiting for this one, the wait was absolutely worth it. Team Cherry took everything that made the original so beloved and pushed it further in every direction. Bigger map, more bosses, tighter combat, and a world that rewards exploration and patience. This is one of the best Metroidvania games available on any platform right now. At number 4, Hades 2 earns its spot as one of the best roguelike games ever made. Supergiant took what was already a near-perfect formula and layered in new mechanics, a new protagonist in Melanoy, branching paths, and an expanded mythology that keeps every run feeling fresh. Game Informer gave it a rare perfect 10, and after a few hours with it, you will understand exactly why. Sitting at number 5, Donkey Kong Bananza is one of the biggest Switch 2 exclusives released so far, and it is a proper showcase of what the hardware can do. The destruction mechanics let you tear through environments in ways that feel creative and satisfying, and the level design keeps finding new ways to surprise you. This one moved over 4.5 million copies, and for good reason. Number 6 goes to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, a game that spent years in development and came out delivering a genuinely fun first-person adventure through alien worlds. It is more linear than the original Prime trilogy, but the atmosphere, combat, and exploration are all still very much Metroid. If you never played the classic GameCube entries, this is a great entry point that works really well on Switch 2 hardware. At number 7, Super Mario Odyssey remains one of the best platformers ever made, and one of the strongest arguments for owning a Nintendo console. Never gets old. Whether you are playing for the first time or going back for more moons, it holds up beautifully. Number 8 is Hollow Knight, the predecessor to Silksong and one of the best indie games of the last decade. If Silksong has you curious, starting here first is the right call. Hallow Nest is a massive underground kingdom full of lore, secrets, and some of the most punishing but fair boss fights in the genre. On Switch 2, it now runs at higher performance, making it even smoother to play. Landing at number 9, Pokémon Legends ZA brings the action RPG direction of the Legends series into Lumio City, with deeper character connections and a more cinematic feel than the mainline games. It sold nearly 4 million copies on Switch 2, and fans who were burned by Scarlet and Violet found this one to be a significant step up in quality and performance. Coming in at number 10, Celeste is one of those games that does so much more than its simple concept suggests. It is a precision platformer about climbing a mountain that doubles as a story about mental health and perseverance, and it handles both with real craft. The difficulty is tough but fair. Every death feels like a lesson, and the sense of accomplishment when you clear a tough section is genuinely hard to match. At number 11, Metroid Dread is still one of the best games on Switch 1, and it runs great on Switch 2 as well. The MI robots that hunt you through corridors add a layer of tension you rarely feel in action games, and the core combat and exploration are some of the tightest in the Metroidvania genre. If you want a shorter, more focused single-player experience, this one clocks in very satisfyingly. Number 12 is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a JRPG that earns every hour of its massive runtime. The story follows two warring nations and builds into one of the most emotionally resonant narratives in the franchise. The combat system is deep without being unapproachable, and there is enough endgame content to keep you going well past the credits. If you love long single-player RPGs, this is among the best on any Nintendo system. Sitting at number 13, Stardew Valley is the kind of game that quietly becomes one of your most played titles without you ever planning for it. You farm, fish, mine, and build relationships in a peaceful little valley, and the loop never really gets old. It works beautifully in handheld mode and is one of the best games to pick up and put down whenever you have a few minutes or a few hours. At number 14, Hades is the game that started the roguelite revolution that Hades 2 continues. Escaping the underworld as Zagreus is endlessly entertaining, thanks to the fluid combat, witty writing, and a boon system that lets you build wildly different runs each time. Even if you play Hades 2 first, going back to this one still feels incredibly rewarding, and the story it tells across dozens of runs is something special. Number 15 is Kirby and the Forgotten Land, now available in an enhanced Switch 2 edition that includes new content and improved performance. It is one of the most charming and polished 3D platformers Nintendo has published, and it hits a sweet spot between accessible and genuinely engaging. The mouthful mode ability, where Kirby inhales vehicles and objects, is endlessly creative, and the boss fights are a highlight. Coming in at number 16, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is one of those games that feels like stepping inside a movie. Set between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, it blends stealth, combat, and exploration across locations like the Vatican and Egyptian pyramids. The Switch 2 port holds up well visually, and this game appeared on countless Game of the Year lists across multiple platforms for good reason. At number 17, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade on Switch 2 is an impressive technical achievement that brings one of the most beloved JRPG remakes to a handheld format. The production value is massive, the combat is action-oriented and satisfying, and the story expansion adds real depth for longtime fans. If you have never experienced the remake before, the Switch 2 is a genuinely great way to play it. Number 18 is Cyberpunk 2077, a game that had a rough launch elsewhere, but arrives on Switch 2 in a much more polished state. The open world of Night City is dense with story content, side quests, and character builds that completely change how you approach the game. For a single-player RPG with serious depth and a gripping main narrative, few games on the platform can match what this one delivers. Sitting at number 19, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition brings back a fan favorite that many never got to experience on Wii U with a remaster built for Switch hardware. The game is set on an alien planet with massive open areas, a deep mech combat system, and a scale that feels genuinely impressive. If you want a long, single-player JRPG to commit to, this delivers hundreds of hours of content. At number 20, Pokémon Pokopia is one of the most unique entries in the Pokémon lineup and a surprise hit on Switch 2 in 2026. It blends a cozy building loop of Animal Crossing with the world of Pokémon, letting you restore an island and live among your Pokémon in a calm and rewarding way. Critics called it unexpectedly endearing, and it is perfect for players who want something more relaxed and personal. Coming in at number 21, Elden Ring on Switch 2 is the open-world Souls-like from From Software, and it is a remarkable port of one of the most celebrated games of the current generation. The freedom to explore the lands between at your own pace and tackle bosses in any order you choose makes it one of the most replayable single-player games available. If you have not played it yet, this is a very strong way to experience it. At number 22, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom steps away from Link and puts Zelda herself at the center of a top-down adventure that brings creative puzzle solving back to the classic format. The Echoes mechanic, where Zelda summons copies of enemies and objects to solve problems, is inventive and opens up a lot of room for player creativity. It is a shorter experience than the 3D Zelda games, but deeply satisfying. Number 23 is Cuphead, one of the most visually distinctive games ever made, and a brutally challenging run-and-gun experience wrapped in a 1930s cartoon aesthetic. Every boss fight is hand-animated and requires real pattern recognition and precision to beat. It is hard, there is no getting around that, but it is one of the most rewarding games you can play solo on Nintendo hardware today. Sitting at number 24, Mina the Hollower comes from the creators of Shovel Knight and launched in 2026 to strong reviews. It draws inspiration from classic Game Boy-era action games with a nostalgic heart but thoughtful modern design that makes it feel completely contemporary. On Switch 2, it runs at 120 frames per second, making it one of the smoothest playing indie games on the platform right now. And rounding out the list at number 25, Animal Crossing New Horizons is still one of the most played games in Switch history, and for good reason. Decorating your island at your own pace, catching bugs, fishing, and building relationships with your villagers creates a loop that hundreds of millions of players globally have found deeply comforting. If you want a single-player experience you can return to every single day, nothing on Switch does that better.